Things could get super interesting in the NFC North for Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers. What do I mean by that? Before I jump into it, if you like the content, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Okay, so as you know, a lot of teams were super active on the free agency front, which has altered nearly every team's draft plans come this April. That being said, Mel Kiper has kind of come up with this revised, modified mock draft based off of teams' activity on the free agency front. So, what does that mean for the NFC North? He's come out with some unique names, and and some pretty obvious names for some teams. Let's get into it. Let's start with the Chicago Bears. Okay, so on the Chicago Bears front, nothing has changed for who their number one selection is. Of course, we all know it's Caleb Williams, quarterback out of USC, which I would welcome Caleb Williams into the NFC North to the Chicago Bears team. They're going to be doing the same thing that they did with Justin Fields, throwing him into the starting lineup, kind of a trial by fire type of process there. We saw how that worked out for Justin Fields. We saw what they got for Justin Fields. They get a sixth round pick unless he takes 51% of the snaps. Then it turns into a fourth round pick, which that I see, very unlikely happening there in Pittsburgh. So, what does that mean then for the Chicago Bears? That means they take Caleb Williams, which could be a Justin Fields type of situation there. But here's with their ninth pick. This gets a little bit scarier because it's Jared Verse, edge rusher out of Florida State. So if you pair him with Montez Sweat, so you've got Jared Verse, Montez Sweat on either side, that is going to be problematic for any offense out there, especially when you start talking about potent offenses in the NFC North, like the Detroit Lions, like the Green Bay Packers. It's going to be more problematic, honestly, for the Detroit Lions because uh, Jared Goff can't scramble. Jared Goff is going to have a heck of a time. When you put pressure on Jared Goff, he's proved that he's going to make some aired throws, some interceptions, all of that stuff. So Bears, if they do select Jared Verse with that ninth pick, it's going to be somewhat problematic for the Packers and Jordan Love. But thankfully, they run, a quicker pace offense. You've got, jet sweep with guys that have speed like your Jaden Reed. So I don't see this being a big issue for the Packers. I think the Packers still are not going to be disrupted by the Chicago Bears. We still own Chicago, so I don't see that changing. So let's jump down to the Green Bay Packers. Who does Mel Kiper have? The Packers selecting now. They have them taking Liatu Latu, edge rusher out of UCLA. If you don't know this dude, watch some highlights on him. He is a disruptor. So you start talking about a disruption there in Chicago with Sweat. Now you've got Green Bay has got that same problem. If they get Liatu Latu out of UCLA, Van Ness is still developing, okay, and Liatu Latu would be developing too over that. It's not like he's going to come in and have this instant impact. He certainly's got the size for it. But you've got Van Ness, you've got Liatu Latu, and then you've got all the other weapons on our defense. But let's take a look at Liatu's size. Okay, so this dude is a beast, 6'5", 270 pounds. Obviously out of UCLA, he's won a ton of awards. Take a look at that on the screen. But also it says led the nation in tackles for loss per game at 1.8, nearly two tackles a game for loss that he was averaging. He ranked fourth nationally, second in the league in sacks per game at 1.08 average. His total of 13 sacks rates was the most by any Pac-12 player this season and tied third on the all-time UCLA season list. The 13 sacks are the most by a Bruin since Anthony Barr recorded 13.5, so 13 and a half back in 2012. His total of 23 and a half sacks over the last two seasons is the most by a UCLA player since Barr compiled the same total in 2012 to 2013. His total of 21 and a half sacks for loss are the most by any player in the nation to this point in the season. and the highest mark by a Bruin since Barr finished in 2012 with 21.5. That being said, guys, when you start talking about edge rushing for the Green Bay Packers, and if you get a guy like Liatu Latu there, that is going to cause some disruption, some chaos, stuff that we've been hearing what Jeff Hafley wants to do. Um, so would I be upset or bothered by Liatu, the Packers taking him? The only thing that I would caution the Packers, obviously, and they already know his medical front there. The dude hurt his neck back, 3.5 years ago, and he had a neck fusion. The Washington medical staff said that the dude needs to retire, but he didn't. You saw what he did with UCLA. So can you imagine him on Green Bay's defensive front? Leave your comments. Let me know what you think. Okay, would you rather have Liatu Latu, or the Minnesota Vikings have Kiper has them taking Cooper DeJean. So would you rather have Cooper DeJean or Liatu Latu with that first selection? So Minnesota picks 2 picks ahead of the Packers, so it has them taking Cooper out of Iowa. If he somehow slips past Minnesota or any other team out there, I think the Green Bay Packers don't pass up on DeJean. I really don't. Obviously, it has the Minnesota Vikings. We've already talked about that in a previous video, trading up actually to get JJ McCarthy. It had them trading up with the New England Patriots. So if that's the case, if they do trade up to get JJ McCarthy, do they lose that second first round pick there? Time is going to tell. Cooper DeJean, though, is that second guy. He's going to be problematic for the Packer offense when we start talking about him. And this is actually an ideal draft. If the Minnesota Vikings can somehow land JJ McCarthy, who I think is the most NFL ready quarterback out there, if you take that and pair him with Cooper DeJean, that's going to be problematic. It has the Lions at the 28th selection, drafting a wide receiver. Anyways, let's get into it. Computer is, giving me some fits. So leave your comments. Let me know what you think. Would you rather have Cooper DeJean or Liatu Latu out of UCLA? I think the Packers do need that edge rusher. Like we've talked about, Jeff Hafley creating chaos and disruption at the line of scrimmage, and you see him in the NFC North. I would love to have him going up against Jared Goff and the Detroit Lions, because again, you put pressure on Jared Goff, he's going to make mistakes. They won the division last year. It's time for us to take that back. 1 year and done for the Detroit Lions. That's my prediction. Go Pack, go.